With a swift motion, the boy opened the box, revealing a flat, white and square object. Without diverting my gaze from him, I nudged the white square off the object, capturing the tantalizing scent of meat that emanated from it. Carefully, I grabbed the thinly sliced meat with my teeth and devoured it, my thirst momentarily forgotten. As if sensing my struggle, the human emptied the metal box of several small packages. He then reached for a clear bottle and poured its contents into the container, placing it beside the white squares. The enticing aroma of pure, clean water filled the air, an elixir that seemed too good to be true. My thirst clouded my judgment, and without hesitation, I plunged my snout into the container, drinking the sweet, cold water that was graciously offered to me. Suddenly, the silence of the forest was shattered by the sound of something crashing through the brush. In that moment, I lifted my head in anticipation, hoping to catch a glimpse of the creature that would end my suffering. As I waited, I couldn't help but reflect on the hardships I had endured in my life. However, instead of retreating in fear, the boy approached me with curiosity, cautiously inching closer. In response, I snapped my sharp teeth in warning, a reminder of my innate ability to tear flesh and crush bones. Surprisingly, the human didn't run away. Instead, he stood his ground, rummaging through his pack until he retrieved a small metal box adorned with bright colors. As I savored the last drops of moisture, the pressure and pain on my trapped leg began to lessen. Startled, I lifted my head to see the human's back turned, their feet firmly planted on either side of the trap. With their slender fingers, they pried open the jaws of the trap, allowing me to finally free my leg. As I pulled away, the human released their hold on the trap and stumbled backward, retreating towards their pack in fear. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the talented storyteller, teller of tall tales, for providing us with this captivating story. Please check out their work in the description below. Now, let us delve into the mesmerizing tale that awaits us. A soft palm was placed against my rough skin, a touch filled with both vulnerability and trust. In that instance, a bond formed between us, transcending the barriers of different species. It was a connection that defied logic, but one that felt undeniably real. And then, emerging from the thick foliage, came a being unlike any I had encountered before. A small figure adorned with a backpack, dressed in peculiar blue garments that covered its pale skin. The human boy froze upon seeing me, his eyes widening in awe. It was understandable, considering I towered over him, my size comparable to what humans called a Kodak grizzly. I had hatched alone in a cold, desolate crater, forced to fend off the menacing gray beasts that threatened my existence. Survival in these unfamiliar forests had been a relentless battle, and yet here I was, a mighty beast brought to my knees by a hidden iron trap buried beneath the leaves. As I lay on the forest path, my leg trapped in a merciless metal snare, my days became a blur of pain and suffering. The rusty jaws of the trap had closed around my limb, draining me of my strength and leaving me on the brink of death. I watched as the compassionate birds circled overhead, seemingly unaware of my dire predicament. Overwhelmed by a mix of emotions, I slowly lowered my horned head, pressing it gently against the human's chest. In that moment, I could feel their terror and dread, as if it were my own. I couldn't comprehend why this young human had chosen to free me, knowing full well that I could easily end their life. Yet, inexplicably, I felt no desire to harm this being. I felt joy of my own as the human matured and aged with his mother, often enjoying a meal on the back patio as he grew into a man. Our bonds strengthened such that we could share thoughts and emotions across great distances. I grew into my wings, able to fly and perch in sturdier trees as my form became more lithe and long. One night, a vehicle with no headlights approached the human's dwelling up the gravel road. Big men smelling of alcohol and bad intentions quietly exited the sleek vehicle, unaware of me watching from the tree line. As they grabbed human weapons and approached the door, they didn't make it halfway before. Placed between my horns, the human spoke and gave me a name, a beautifully human concept for something outside of their own species. "I'll call you Snappy. We'll be best friends forever," the human said, with joy radiating off of them as they collected their things and walked off, me trailing at their heels. The humans showed me their dwelling, a small wooden building with a gravel road leading up to it. The boy gave me a meat called bologna from a circular package before showing me a medium-sized empty metal shack in the tree line, saying, You can stay here. Mom would be mad if she found out about you." I did not ponder this statement as I found the shack dark and the entrance well obscured, but it was comfortable and much preferable to the dank caves I'd lived in until then. The mother, trembling with fear, spoke in a shaky voice, questioning what kind of creature I was. In perfect unison, my human and I turned to face her. I sensed a strange emotion emanating from my human, whom I now knew as Tim. He felt a deep sadness for not having told his mother the full truth. In a soft voice, he disclosed that I was named Snappy and recounted a childhood incident where he had been pushed into a ditch by older boys. He revealed that he had given his lunch to me after freeing me from an old bear trap. Since then, I had been living in his father's old shed. My human, displaying a uniquely human sentiment, looked at the terrified men, and a sense of mercy overcame them. They commanded me to release the man, retracting my claws from his warm flesh. As I sat back on my hunches, positioning my considerable bulk between my human's mother and the men, they picked up their injured comrade and quietly left in their vehicle. The woman's emotions shifted from fear to a mixture of concern and anger. She scolded Tim, using his full name, for not informing her that he had befriended a dragon. Despite her anger, she acknowledged his kind heart but expressed her worries about how he used it. The following years passed quickly, with Tim's mother aging and eventually passing away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 100. She left the house and property to a 60-year-old Tim, who now had a family of his own. His young daughter took a liking to me, enjoying riding on my back, just like in her favorite movies. It reminded Tim of when he had saved me all those years ago. I no longer slept in a neglected shed, but instead had a hand-built shelter with comfortable bedding and warmth during the winter months. Tim, his wife, and adult daughter shared their lives with me, creating a bond that transcended time and space. With a thunderous roar, I took flight and landed forcefully between the house and the group of men, causing them to scramble backward in fear. My sharp talons dug into the flesh of one of the men's shoulders as I heard the door unlock and swing open. Turning my gaze towards my human and their mother, I saw a horrified expression on the woman's face while my human rushed out, demanding to know who these men were and why they were here. The stress in my human's words conveyed their fear as I telepathically communicated my thoughts to them, explaining that these men approached with weapons drawn, exuding a malicious intent. During the holiday seasons, my family would visit me and bring gifts such as fresh venison and shiny trinkets that now decorate the plain shelves in my new home. They never asked for anything in return except for my company. However, one day a massive ship entered the atmosphere, casting a shadow over the sun. I had a gut feeling that it was my own kind returning to judge this world. They landed in every major city, their troops and equipment ready for conquest. I felt a sense of impending doom as a massive elder dren landed in my yard, exactly where I expected him to be. Tim, hobbling from the house with his cane, was in awe of the elder's size and bright coloring. But the elder's attention never wavered from me. In my mind, he asked if I believed this planet was worthy of a place at the high table. Initially, I shamefully considered that humans weren't ready, with their wars, violence, and disregard for one another. But then I saw the good that Tim had done: his mercy, selflessness, and ability to forgive. This human had never caused harm to anyone, even in the face of those who wished him ill. Deeply respectful, I responded that humanity deserved a seat at the high table more than we did, on my blood, flesh, hide, and soul. The Ancient One carefully pondered my words before asking if I would give my life to seal this promise. Part of me revolted at the thought, and I felt weak in my limbs. Tim's cane fell to the ground, and he positioned himself between me and the elder. The elder reared back, ready to strike, but Tim's words stopped him in his tracks. He refused to let anyone die for our survival, and instead offered his own life to seal the promise. Tim's emotional outpouring shook me to my core. He sobbed, not from sadness but from anger. Surprisingly, the elder bowed to Tim, showing respect for his selflessness. No words or emotions were visible on the elder's scaled face, but his actions spoke volumes. Tim fell to his knees, unable to stand for long without his cane. The elder then bit into its own sacred flesh, drawing a golden drop of blood that he pressed against a veil. This act signified that no blood would be shed on behalf of Tim's kind. The story ends with a plea for support by leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and receiving a heartfelt response to every comment.